Hello everyone, Coin Collector here, and today we're going to be taking a look at a piece of 8. Now this is obviously a fascinating coin, not least because it conjures up images of pirates trying to nick these off treasure galleons in the Caribbean. But in reality, the piece of 8, its official name was 8 reals, and is one of the most important global trade coins in world history, given that during the 16th century and early parts of the 17th century, Spain was one of the dominant economic forces, not only in Europe, but also all over the world due to its colonial empire in Central, South America primarily, but also along with Portugal, that this coin was widely used by merchants all across Europe as a unit of account, since its silver purity was known, and as such it was made great use for trade. So this coin itself is it's obviously silver, but it's 93.1% silver. I'm not entirely sure how they settled on that. Perhaps an expert in Spanish coins could let me know. But it weighs about 0.87 troy ounces, about 27 grams. So it's a fairly chunky coin, which is very nice to feel it. So let's talk a bit about the design. As I said, this was issued during the reign of Philip IV. So somewhere between 1621 and 1665, this would have been minted. During this period, Spain was in a relative period of decline in terms of economic and military power. That doesn't mean it was, very weak or not, but it was certainly past its peak in terms of its power. And in some ways, you can see that reflected on the coat of arms, which we'll go through in a moment. But we'll start on the reverse side. As you can see a coat of arms. Hopefully you can make out two castles very clearly, and then these two lines. So this is the coat of arms of the Kingdom of Castile and Leon, which is Castile's the primary kingdom that made up the Kingdom of Spain, and Leon was a much smaller kingdom which Castile conquered a couple of hundred years earlier. So the castles make up Castile, and the two lines Leon. Now if we flip over to the obverse side, you can make out some letters on the left hand side. The S stands for Seville, which is obviously the city in the southwest part of Spain near the coast, and was a major centre for coin minting, partly because it was quite close to the coast, as I said. Lots of the silver and gold that was imported from Central and South America could easily get there, and then it would be turned into coins to be used throughout the empire. Below the S, you should be able to make out an R. Now that is the moneyer's name, so the person who actually stamped the coin. Haven't been able to find out what it was exactly, maybe Ricardo, but that tells us exactly where it was made and by whom. Now if you look at the coat of arms, you should be able to make out a crown. I know the coin's quite badly worn, but it is obviously 400 years old, so it's nothing too unusual. You can make out the crown, so it's the imperial coat of arms, and you can make out quite a big coat of arms. If we start off in the top left, you should be able to make out the coat of arms we just looked at on the other side of the coin, the coat of arms of the Kingdom of Castile and Leon. Then slightly stamped above that is actually the Kingdom of Portugal, because during this period, the King of Spain was also King of Portugal, which brought in many benefits, not least because Portuguese merchants were some of the most adventurous and had reached the furthest parts of the world, including Africa and Asia during this period. So it did provide them with vast wealth from all parts of the world that other countries hadn't been able to get to yet. If we move on to the other side, you should be able to make out the symbols for the Kingdom of Aragon, which was another kingdom which, when joined with Castile, created modern-day Spain, and it was primarily along the east coast of Spain. Now, you should be able to make out, just about there, an Austrian flag, because although Philip IV himself was not in reality Archduke of Austria, I believe he still claimed the title since one of his ancestors did hold that title, so they still kept it on their coat of arms even though they didn't actually have any power there at all. Then, I know the bottom's very worn, but over here would be the symbols for the Kingdom of Two Sicilies, or the Kingdom of Naples, which encompassed most of southern Spain and the Isle of Sicily, obviously. And then down right at the bottom, although it's worn again, I'm sorry, would be the Spanish Benelux region territories, so Flanders, we're talking Holland, so most of modern-day Belgium and Netherlands were actually controlled by Spain during this time. And interesting enough, Spain is obviously a very Catholic country, was then, and most of the Low region was Protestant, and this caused them numerous issues throughout their history. But during this period, they did control it very intently before it managed to uprise against them. So what I thought I would do is, this coin obviously shows quite how far the Spanish Empire spread during this period. So I'll just show you on a map briefly where this coin was minted and some of the other territories that I've mentioned. So we start over here. You've got Seville. So this is modern day Spain. You've got the city of Seville, which obviously still exists, and that's where this coin was struck somewhere between 1621 and 1665. Now, if we start off with the Kingdom of Castile. Kingdom of Castile is, well, was roughly, Spanish history is very interesting, and if you're interested, I suggest you do a lot more research on it. But very broadly, the Kingdom of Castile was mainly the central part of Spain, and after completing a reconquista against the last Islamic caliphate, which existed in the south, mainly Granada, Kingdom of Castile solidified its rule, as it were, over the Spanish mainland. Kingdom of Leon has also a long, interesting history. In fact, during the peak of its power, it actually controlled most of modern-day northern Portugal. However, by the time Castile sort of conquered it and integrated it, it was much smaller and only really existed around the Salamanca area. Now, if we flip over to the other side of the coin, so we can take, obviously everyone knows where Portugal was, that's pretty much the same there. Although, and then obviously it included its vast colonial empire in Brazil, Africa, and Asia. Aragon mainly existed on the east coast, stretching down from Barcelona, Valencia. And when Castile and Aragon united, they created the modern-day Kingdom of Spain, effectively. Obviously, everyone knows where Austria is, and it's over there, but during that time it also controlled vast swathes of Central Europe, but they didn't have any power over it during Philip IV's reign. Kingdom of Two Sicilies, obviously you got Sicily and southern Italy, including Naples, and that was a very strong area of Spanish control. And then if we also move up, you can see in modern-day Benelux, where they control most of modern-day Belgium, most of modern-day Holland, and even parts of modern-day France. But as I said, they eventually, through a violent uprising, managed to form the Kingdom of the Netherlands against the Kingdom of Spain, but that's a bit later on in history. So what this coin does show you is quite how far the Spanish Empire spread due to, during this period. You've got it controlling vast swathes of Central Europe, Southern Europe, Northern Europe, and obviously you've got all its colonial dominions over in North and South America. So this piece of 8, as it's known, or modern-day pirate's coin, has a fascinating history, and although it's crudely struck and 400 years old, it's an absolutely wonderful coin, which I recommend anyone to have in their collection. Thank you very much, and remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel.